Tonight, a Manitoba town plunged into mourning. The identities of a couple killed in a wildfire revealed.
She was a big part of the community. Everybody knew Sue.
The punishing prairie fires and excruciating escapes.
It's a surreal experience, really, especially when the fire is that close and you think, well, okay, I might lose my house.
And a fierce fight on the front line. What Canadian Tire paid for a piece of Canada's oldest company. A warning on the toll of tariffs from the world's largest retailer and what it means for Canadian consumers. Plus, demands for a do-over.
There's a law. It appears clear. We have a case.
What happens next in a controversial Quebec riding flipped by a single vote? And 80 million reasons to celebrate a sleepless night.
Okay. I woke up to that, babe, we don't have to work anymore.
The BC man living the dream of winning a record jackpot.
This is life-changing.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. We are learning more tonight about the victims of a punishing wildfire in Manitoba who could not outrun the fast-moving flames. CTV's Alex Carpa leads us off with the shock and grief and the real risk that remains.
A tragedy in the community of Lac du Bonny, where 2 people have died in the clutches of a wildfire. Now CTV News is learning the victims are Richard and Sue Noel.
Very friendly, would talk to anyone, very creative.
Cindy Ember works right next door where Sue reportedly worked.
She was a big part of the community. Everybody knew Sue.
Manitoba RCMP told CTV News Thursday they would not be identifying the victims until an autopsy is complete. Ember says losing both Richard and Sue is having a big impact on the community.
She was a very big part of the community. Just with working at the rink, she did the rink cafe.
The province says over 1,000 people have been forced to evacuate due to the wildfires, including many here in the Lac du Bonny region. I spoke to one resident who said it's been a hard time for him and his family.
This is home.
Dan Guillou was forced to evacuate his home on Tuesday and has been living out of his trailer ever since.
This is where I live, and all our stuff is there. All our valuables, passports, pictures, kids' graduation stuff.
Video from Guillou shows the devastation left in the wake of the fire. The Reeve of Lac du Bonny says at least 28 cottages and houses have been destroyed by the flames. Guillou says it's hard to witness.
Crazy winds, fast winds. There's whitecaps on the water where there normally isn't, and obviously wind is the worst enemy. We want rain.
There are 21 active fires in the province, with at least 5 out of control. In a press conference earlier today, Premier Wab Kinew says he is urging Manitobans to change their plans for the upcoming long weekend.
Any fire that goes out of control, even in an area that's not dealing with wildfire, could potentially pull resources away from the front lines where we urgently need help.
The Manitoba government has requested an additional 80 firefighters through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre to help fight the flames burning right across the province. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Lac du Bonny, Manitoba.
And as Alex mentioned, there are currently 5 out-of-control wildfires burning across Manitoba and 4 in neighboring Saskatchewan, a province that has already had more than 150 wildfires this year, roughly double the 5-year average. CTV's Alison Bamford on the anxiety ahead of the long weekend.
This is all gone here.
Scorched forest along the highway right across from Penny Zelensky's laneway.
It's a surreal experience, really, because when you think, especially when the fire is that close and you think, well, okay, I might lose my house.
A threat she knows too well. 4 years ago, she had to evacuate her home.
I thought, here we go again. It was like deja vu.
They set up a sprinkler system to protect the house. This time around, under a second evacuation notice, she used it again.
We had the sprinklers on here for, I think, 4 days, day and night.
Across the road, crews still search for hot spots in the forest. Last week, the situation far more threatening, as the rural municipality of Garden River battled the flames, calling for backup from 6 different departments, including Muscadet First Nation.
We usually go out with a crew of about 10 and leave 10 behind so that we're not shorting our own community.
The volunteer fire department upped their wildland equipment and training after fighting their own fire in the community this time last year.
Garden River was out here to assist us in that big event this spring. We were able to pay them back.
Back at the burn area, Zelensky knows it could have been much worse. Only forest and farmland lost in the flames.
The wind was in our favor, thankfully.
This wildfire is now contained, but the area is under an air quality advisory, a reminder that just northeast of here, wildfires continue to burn out of control, with some communities now under pre-alert for evacuation. Allison Bamford, CTV News, near Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
The iconic Hudsons Bay stripes, older than Canada itself and dating back to 1779, will soon have a new home with another Canadian retail giant. Canadian Tire announced today it will pay $30 million for the HBC stripes, branding, coat of arms, and other intellectual property. The CEO calling the deal, which is still subject to court approval, both strategic and patriotic. Hudsons Bay filed for creditor protection back in March, and though the brands have now found a new home, its leases are still in play. And 4,400 pieces of art and artifacts, including the company's royal charter from 1670, are expected to be auctioned off. The largest retailer in the world issued a warning to shoppers today, Walmart revealing that customers will soon have to pay more because of Donald Trump's tariffs. It comes a day after another major company did the same. CTV's John Veneveli-Rao on how big the hit will be.
In a clear sign that Donald Trump's trade war is really starting to bite, Walmart is now the latest retailer to warn of imminent price hikes.
We've not seen a period where you've had prices go up this high, this quickly.
The company's chief financial officer telling CNBC Walmart customers in the U.S. should expect to open their wallets wider, likely by the end of May. This despite the U.S. president agreeing to temporarily lower duties on Chinese imports to 30%. And as for whether it could impact Canadian shoppers, retail analysts say U.S.-made products sold by Walmart could get more expensive.
There's a lot of products, even if you call them American-made, that have a certain portion of the product, raw materials from China, and that's where the 30% tariff would come in.
This all comes as German footwear maker Birkenstock said it plans to raise prices worldwide to offset the impact of the 10% U.S. tariff on EU-made goods. While grocery giant Loblaw says with its inventory built up before the trade war running out, Canadian shoppers should soon expect to see a jump in the number of tariff-affected products, like Florida orange juice, which is marked with the letter T next to the price. In a LinkedIn post, Loblaw's CEO said over 1,000 items on its shelves are tariff-affected, but says in the next week or two that'll surge to 3,000, and within the next 2 months could peak at over 6,000. Though he notes that would still be less than 10% of the items stocked by the company, and many tariffed items have a non-tariffed alternative.
Sounds like a lot of products, but in the grand scheme of a store, we're not going to see food prices across the whole grocery store go up.
As for Walmart, analysts say it can import items direct from China to Canadian ports, so shoppers here can be spared from paying for Trump's tariffs. John Veneveli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Those tariffs are affecting Ontario's bottom line. Canada's most populous province revealing its budget today, projecting a $14.6 billion deficit this year, a number that has ballooned by about $10 billion from last year.
These tariffs imposed by the United States have been a wake-up call for Canadians.
Doug Ford's government has pledged billions to help small business, skilled trade, and manufacturing, and $5 billion in a fund to help major industries keep workers and help them adapt to the U.S. tariffs. As for the federal budget, we learned yesterday there won't be one this year, and that has prompted backlash today. Here's CTV's Judy Trin on the criticism.
It's my pleasure on behalf of the Cabinet to sign this order to deliver that tax cut.
The Prime Minister is prioritizing tax cuts, but he's not prioritizing delivering a spring budget.
Xavier?
The Conservative leader is criticizing the delay by using Mark Carney's own words against him.
Pierre Poilievre's answer to everything is a slogan and a tax cut.
He took great delight in saying that a slogan is not a plan. Well, a budget is a plan. And if he does indeed have a plan, if he does know what he's doing, then he would introduce a budget.
Mr. Carney was elected leader of the Liberal Party not too long ago, sworn in as Prime Minister right into an election campaign. He's been fundamentally the Prime Minister for 2 weeks.
Amid a trade war, detailed information about the financial health of a country won't be available for months until the fall economic statement. That means the full picture that a budget provides won't come into focus until next year.
We don't know exactly the status of the economy right now. We're not going to have really a full budget for almost 2 full years, which I think is a problem for accountability.
At this meeting of G7 business leaders, some are willing to give Carney more time during this moment of dramatic geopolitical shift.
I don't think there's a specific grace period. I think let's see how the next 6 months go. I think lots of trade talk, lots of work to be done with our trading partners in the U.S. Let's see what happens there.
The government can operate without a budget, but it will have to pass a new spending bill to authorize new measures. For that, the Prime Minister will have to work with opposition parties. The Liberals are still 2 seats short of a majority. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you. The Liberals were 3 seats shy of a majority until the judicial recount in a Quebec riding flipped it in their favor by a single vote. Now, the Bloc, the party that lost, says it is launching a legal challenge after issues emerged with some special ballots. CTV's Rachel Aiello explains.
There's a law. It appears clear. We have a case.
The Bloc Québécois are heading to court to push for a revote in the riding of Terrebonne.
We want this election to be held properly, and that's it.
The challenge comes after the seat flipped red in a judicial recount that saw the Liberal candidate beat the Bloc incumbent by a single vote. Following the results being retallied, a voter came forward saying her ballot was returned due to an error in the postal code on the envelope provided. I would like for my vote to ultimately count, she says. When this case arose, Elections Canada said the results of the recount were final and that it would be up to a party to pursue legal recourse. The Bloc candidate, who this vote would have gone to, says she's confident in the case the Bloc is now bringing.
It's a roller coaster.
Elections Canada confirmed today that of the 115 special ballots issued in Terrebonne, this is the only instance they're aware of where an envelope containing a marked ballot was returned to a voter because of an incorrect address. Though 5 additional ballots with similar issues were returned late, and so they were not counted. The independent electoral body asserts they have no information as to whether the delay was due to the postal code misprint. The Liberal MP-elect declined to comment today, and the party directed questions about the count to Elections Canada. Canada's chief electoral officer is now conducting a broader federal review of the special ballot system to ensure these issues don't happen again. There are 3 other ridings where judicial recounts are happening, 1 in Newfoundland and 2 in Ontario, all with razor-thin margins between the Liberal and Conservative candidates. Omar?
All right, Rachel, thank you for this tonight. U.S. President Donald Trump wrapped up his trip to the Middle East today, teasing a potential deal with Iran and weighing in on peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Melvin.
Greeted at the presidential palace in Abu Dhabi, another lavish welcome. The president had teased he might make another stop, that he might attend the newest round of Russian-Ukrainian peace talks. Expectation was high until this.
Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there.
Throwing cold water on the talks that had restarted in hopes of ending that brutal 3-year war. With no agenda, no high-level delegation, Vladimir Putin skipped the talks. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Moscow of disrespect. I think Russia's attitude is unserious, Zelensky said. Russia proposed these direct negotiations, and it was President Trump who said we should meet. America's top diplomat Marco Rubio echoing his boss.
The president is impatient to end this war. The only way we're going to have a breakthrough here is between President Trump and President Putin.
As Trump was busy reshaping foreign policy in the Middle East, cementing friendships and investments with the Gulf kingdoms.
We're going to give Syria a chance.
Lifting sanctions and greeting Syria's new president Trump once called a terrorist. Trump offered this, that he's working with Qatar to push Iran to give up its nuclear ambitions.
Iran has sort of agreed to the terms. They're not going to make, I call it in a friendly way, nuclear dust. We're not going to be making any nuclear dust
in Iran.
As for when the U.S. president could meet Vladimir Putin, the White House says there are no immediate plans for that. Omar?
All right, Joy Melvin in Washington. Joy, thanks. Coming up.
A much larger outbreak than we've seen in Canada over the last 10 years.
What's causing some schools to shutter? Plus, the shocking murder of a social media influencer. Mexico's president says her security cabinet is investigating the murder of a beauty influencer killed during a TikTok live stream. 23-year-old Valeria Marquez was live streaming on Tuesday from the salon where she worked when a man walked in and shot her. It's being investigated as a case of femicide, the intentional murder of women or girls because of their gender, crimes that are on the rise in Mexico. Grammy-winning singer Chris Brown has been arrested in England for allegedly beating a music producer at a London nightclub in 2023. The 36-year-old has been charged with grievous bodily harm with intent. Brown is due to appear in court tomorrow. A Toronto man has pleaded guilty in the largest terror financing scheme in Canadian history. The RCMP says a 36-year-old Toronto man admitted to using cryptocurrency and money transfers to fund a terrorist organization outside of Canada between September 2019 and December 2022.
This kind of things for the last 27 years I've been running this, never anything like that.
And video has surfaced of a bizarre armed robbery last month at a donaire shop in New Westminster, BC. A masked suspect wielding a machete storms in, but he isn't after the money. He approaches the roasting meat and begins slicing it off and taking off with a few pounds of it. He was later arrested. Confirmed measles cases caused the closure of 2 Ontario high schools today as outbreaks continue to grow across the country. CTV's Adrian Gabriel on the warning for parents and students.
Public health notices taped to the front door of a now shuttered Kingston, Ontario high school, closed until next week, spell out the troubling trend.
This is a much larger outbreak than we've seen in Canada over the last 10 years.
Now a second school in nearby Waterloo, Ontario, will be closing its doors tomorrow due to another measles outbreak. In the last week of February, there were 173 cases across Canada. The most recent data from April shows that number has since ballooned to more than 1,500. This map shows where the clusters of cases are across the country, with the overwhelming number found in Ontario, with more than 1,200 since the beginning of the year.
It's also important to recognize, without shame, without stigma, that many, in fact, most of the cases, at least in Ontario, are among a largely unvaccinated community of Mennonites in southwestern Ontario.
An Ontario Public Health Agency, home to a significant number of Mennonite communities, today publicly addressed their highest weekly case count so far this year.
We're still seeing significant activity of measles in our region. We know it's still circulating.
The shuttered schools are now taking steps to keep everyone at home, to allow public health the time to, in part, tally the number of unvaccinated students and faculty and the risks they and their loved ones might be facing.
The key thing here is communicating not just to the students, but also to their parents and the family members that, hey, there was a potential exposure.
Globally, measles kills about 100,000 people each year. The vast majority are either immunocompromised or unvaccinated. Public health officials are warning the public that each of those deaths are largely preventable. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead, nursing a newfound hope.
Like a little wave or rolling over, that's a big moment for us.
How a 9-month-old baby made medical history. A baby with a rare and dangerous disease has become the first ever to receive personalized gene therapy that could save his life.
Like a little wave or rolling over, that's a big moment for us because 6-7 months ago, we were having very different conversations of what that may look like.
9-month-old KJ is growing and thriving after doctors in Philadelphia used gene editing to correct an enzyme deficiency in his body that prevented him from removing ammonia, thereby making his blood toxic. The condition affects about 1 in a million babies and kills half of affected infants. Researchers say the medical milestone could someday help millions.
I thought, oh my God, this is an original
of Edward I, 1300 confirmation of Magna Carta.
And it turns out Harvard University got a bargain price on what is considered one of the world's most valuable documents. What was previously thought to be a copy of the Magna Carta is now believed to be the real thing. Harvard paid $27.50 for it back in 1946, just one of 7 surviving originals that could now be worth millions. The document, issued in 1215, guaranteed rights and liberties to the king's subjects and also subjected the monarch to the laws of the land. It has influenced the framing of constitutions around the world. Still ahead,
I just threw in my resignation through an email.
the emotional story behind a BC man's historic payday. We leave you tonight with the story of a man whose life changed forever when he was out buying hamburger buns. Here's CTV's Andrew Johnson.
Here you go. Oh. Oh, thank you, thank you.
When Justin Semporios was handed an $80 million check, the most cash ever awarded to a single Canadian, the tears started to flow with his future forever changed.
I'm an immigrant. I came from a poor country. Like, this money's a lot, right? I know the struggle for every Canadian around, so with this amount of money, I'll be able to spend more time with my daughter, with my wife, with my family.
The 35-year-old health and safety worker checked his winning numbers in bed using a flashlight because his sick daughter was sleeping next to him. His wife was worried he'd wake her. But when he realized he'd matched all 7 numbers for the May 9th Lotto Max draw, keeping quiet was no longer an option.
I already screamed. I shouted. I cried. Like, I turned on the lights. My wife was mad again. You woke up your daughter. Your daughter woke up. I woke up the daughter. I was like, babe, we don't have to work anymore. Like, this is life changing.
The next step was keeping that very valuable ticket safe. So Semporios turned to AI for advice.
So ChatGPT said, hey, sign the ticket so that no one can take it. Right? So sign the ticket, take a photo of the ticket, and then hide the ticket, right? Make sure it's safe.
Including never leaving home without it.
When we went to church, I placed it in my duffel bag and I just sit down like this, yeah.
Semporios is now going to meet with a financial advisor. He says his first big purchase will be a dream home, and he wants to help his mom join him in early retirement after he emailed his colleagues this morning.
As much as I want to help you guys in the transition, I just need to some time off right now. I just want to step away.
Step away into a new life few will ever experience. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
And you can't blame him. That's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather is here tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and good night.